Midnight settles over the city as office lights remain on in buildings that usually go dark by evening. Inside one of those offices, a wall-sized board is covered in printouts. Photographs, flight records, timelines, property maps. Strings of colored thread connect one document to another in a web of intersecting lines. An investigator steps back and studies it. The pattern is no longer random. Dates match travel logs. Travel logs match witness statements. Witness statements match financial transfers. Each connection strengthens the outline of something larger than a single criminal case. A colleague places another page onto the board and pins it in place. The web grows. Across the country, television studios continue nonstop coverage. Anchors speak in measured tones while graphics display document excerpts. Legal experts repeat a careful reminder. Appearing in records does not equal guilt. Yet they also admit that the sheer scale of connections revealed in filings is unlike anything seen in recent legal history. Phones ring off the hook in law offices representing public figures whose names surfaced. Some attorneys prepare defamation warnings for media outlets. Others schedule interviews to issue denials before speculation spreads further. In one such office, veteran defense lawyer Gloria Allred reviews transcripts with a client seated across from her. She points to a paragraph and explains how testimony language works, how statements can be interpreted, and how public narratives can form before courts ever rule on facts. Her tone is calm, precise, practiced from decades inside high-profile legal storms. Outside her window, reporters wait near the sidewalk hoping for a statement. None comes. Hundreds of miles away, inside a federal records facility, technicians scan additional documents scheduled for digital release. Each page passes under bright scanning lights before appearing on a secure monitor. Clerks label files with timestamps and authentication codes so cool. Courtroom doors swing open. Camera flashes explode. Reporters shout questions as attorneys push through the crowd, holding thick binders. Inside the federal courthouse, clerks wheel in carts stacked with document boxes. Each box is stamped with case numbers, dates, and classification markings. Lawyers flip through pages filled with flight manifests, contact books, handwritten notes, and deposition transcripts. Every page represents another piece of a puzzle the public has been trying to solve for years. A clerk slices open a sealed envelope. Paper slides out. Names. Some belong to business executives. Some to politicians. Some to people whose faces have appeared on television screens for decades. None of the pages explain context at first glance. Just references. Mentions, appearances, and testimony. Legal analysts lean over copies, scanning line by line. One reporter whispers, "If even a fraction of this is true, this is the biggest exposure of elite power networks in modern history." Across the country, newsrooms scramble. Producers shout instructions. Graphics teams prepare breaking news banners. Phones ring nonstop. In Washington, staffers in government offices refresh news feeds, watching as speculation spreads faster than facts. In New York, legal experts gather outside the courthouse steps, speaking into microphones. They explain that appearing in documents does not equal guilt. But they also admit something unusual. They have never seen public interest this intense over unsealed civil filings. At the time of his death, Epstein was being held inside Metropolitan Correctional Center, a federal facility that housed high-profile inmates. Reports later revealed guards failed to check his cell regularly. Surveillance cameras malfunctioned. His cellmate had been transferred. Multiple staff members were later charged with falsifying records. Critics argued the failures were too severe to be simple mistakes. Supporters of the official ruling said incompetence, not conspiracy, explained everything. The truth? Still debated. One investigator circles a name with a red pen. Another flips open a deposition transcript and reads aloud a passage describing a meeting on an island years earlier. The room goes quiet, not because the statement proves anything, but because it suggests connections no one publicly discussed before. Across the Atlantic, a panel of journalists debates whether more sealed material should be released. One argues transparency builds trust. Another warns that releasing raw legal material without context risks destroying innocent reputations. The discussion grows heated. Back in the United States, a Senate office receives hundreds of emails from citizens demanding investigations into anyone named. Staffers sort messages into folders labeled media, legal, constituents. Phones continue ringing. At the same time, legal scholars point out a complication. Many allegations tied to Epstein fall outside statutes of limitation. Even if wrongdoing occurred, prosecution might no longer be possible. That reality frustrates victims' advocates. In a quiet office lined with law books, attorney Alan Dershowitz, himself once mentioned in Epstein-related litigation and long publicly denying accusations, speaks during a televised interview. He argues that being listed in documents proves nothing and warns against what he calls trial by media. The debate intensifies nationwide. News tickers crawl across screens. Analysts argue. Comment sections erupt. Some people demand mass investigations. Others warn of hysteria. In the middle of it all sits a single fact no one disputes. The documents exist. They were sealed. Now many are public. Night falls over Manhattan. Office lights glow in skyscrapers as journalists continue reading page after page. Coffee cups pile up beside keyboards. Highlighters mark paragraphs. Sticky notes cover desks. One reporter leans back and exhales slowly. "This isn't just a scandal," she says quietly. "It's a map." Camera pulls back through the window, rising above the sea. This time is different. Agents listen carefully. They don't interrupt. They don't rush her. Every detail matters now. Dates, locations, names, rooms, flights. When she finishes, one agent closes his notebook slowly. "Thank you," he says. Outside, cameras haven't yet discovered what's happening. But they will. Weeks later, a grand jury is convened. Inside the courtroom, blinds are drawn. Jurors listen as prosecutors outline allegations spanning years. They describe a system designed to recruit vulnerable minors, move them across state lines, and silence them with money. Exhibits are presented one by one. Flight logs, phone numbers, bank transfers. Jurors exchange glances. One flips through photographs showing lavish properties, a Manhattan townhouse, a Palm Beach estate, a private island compound. The contrast between wealth and accusation is impossible to ignore. After hours of testimony, the jurors file out. Deliberation begins. Outside the courthouse, life continues normally. Tourists take photos. Taxis honk. Street vendors shout. No one passing by knows a decision is being made upstairs that will soon dominate global headlines. Inside the jury room, papers shuffle. A vote is taken. Pens mark ballots. A foreperson stands and knocks on the door. When it opens, the verdict sheet is handed to a court officer. Indictment approved. The document is stamped. Within days, a warrant is issued. Federal agents coordinate quietly across jurisdictions. Travel records are checked. Surveillance confirms location. Timing is planned carefully to avoid warning the target. Morning light spreads across an airport runway in New Jersey. A private jet rolls to a stop. Stairs lower. Passengers begin descending. Agents move in. The arrest is calm, professional, almost quiet. But within minutes, news alerts begin lighting up phones across the country. Cable networks interrupt programming. Online headlines refresh simultaneously. The name that many assumed had disappeared from history is suddenly everywhere again. In Washington, lawmakers step into hallways to speak with reporters. Some express shock. Others claim they always believed the case deserved reopening. Political analysts begin debating what this could mean if testimony ever reached trial. In a law office, attorney David Boies reviews the indictment carefully. He represents several accusers. As he turns pages, his expression tightens. He has spent years fighting civil battles connected to this case. Now, for the first time, criminal prosecutors are pursuing it at the highest level. He closes the folder. "This changes everything," he says quietly. Across the Atlantic, newspapers print special editions. Television panels discuss possible implications for international figures previously linked socially to the accused financier. Commentators debate whether this case could expose hidden networks of influence stretching across countries. In a suburban American home, a survivor watches the coverage alone. She doesn't cheer. She doesn't cry. She just watches, motionless, as anchors repeat the breaking news banner again and again. Arrested, charged, facing life in prison. For her, the words feel unreal. For more than a decade, she had believed the world had forgotten. Now the world was finally paying attention. Night falls over New York City. In a detention facility overlooking the river, Lights remain on in a single cell where guards perform routine checks. Paperwork is processed. Personal belongings are logged. Protocols are reviewed. Outside the building, reporters gather behind barricades, speaking into cameras under harsh floodlights. They speculate about what might happen next: plea deal or trial, testimony or silence, exposure or secrecy. No one yet realizes that the most shocking chapter of the story is still ahead. Far above the city streets, thunder rolls faintly in the distance. The storm hasn't arrived yet, but it's coming. Steel doors slam shut one after another as intake officers finish processing the new arrival inside Metropolitan Correctional Center. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. A guard signs a clipboard. Another seals a property bag. Standard procedure. Routine. Documented. The inmate is placed on suicide watch. Paperwork notes prior mental health concerns. Protocol requires frequent monitoring. Guards are instructed to check the cell regularly. Cameras line the corridor outside. For a few days, everything follows regulation. Then the routine changes. Officials later state the watch status is downgraded. Monitoring becomes less frequent. Staffing shortages affect overnight shifts. Paper logs replace digital tracking in some areas. Small deviations. Administrative. Ordinary on paper. But together, they form gaps. Night settles over New York City, the skyline glowing against low clouds. Traffic noise fades into distant hum. Inside the detention unit, most inmates sleep. Footsteps echo occasionally along concrete floors. Two guards sit at a desk. Hours pass. Somewhere down the tier, fabric tightens. Morning count begins. A guard walks the corridor, glancing through narrow cell windows. When he reaches one particular door, he stops. Looks again. Keys rattle. The door opens. Silence. Within minutes, supervisors are called. Medical staff rush in. Radios crackle with overlapping voices. The unit is locked down. Outside the building, no one knows yet. But inside, word spreads fast. An ambulance arrives. Then another vehicle. Then investigators. By mid-morning, phones inside federal offices begin vibrating simultaneously. Messages appear with identical wording. Inmate found unresponsive. At headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, officials assemble in a conference room. Some read incident reports. Others call facility administrators, demanding clarification. Questions stack faster than answers. How long since last check? Why were cameras not functioning in that section? Why were both guards assigned to the tier reportedly asleep? No one in the room speaks for several seconds. Then instructions begin. Secure the scene. Preserve evidence. Notify Justice Department leadership. Prepare statement. News breaks publicly shortly after. Television programming cuts mid-broadcast. A red banner appears. Breaking news. Anchors read from teleprompters as new details arrive in fragments. Viewers watch footage of the detention center exterior while reporters repeat the same confirmed facts again and again because nothing else is verified yet. Found in cell. Pronounced dead at hospital. Apparent suicide. Speculation begins instantly. By afternoon, commentators across networks are already debating possibilities. Some stress institutional failure. Others question whether negligence alone could explain what happened. Retired corrections officials analyze procedures. Former prosecutors discuss legal consequences. On social media, theories multiply by the second. Some posts claim cover-up. Others claim incompetence. Some claim both. Technicians discover missing footage from key time periods. That detail leaks within hours. Public reaction intensifies. Outside the jail, crowds gather behind barricades. Some hold signs demanding answers. Others hold phones live-streaming commentary to followers. Police maintain a perimeter as reporters deliver stand-ups in front of satellite trucks. Night falls again, but this time the building is surrounded by lights from news crews broadcasting around the world. In Washington, lawmakers request briefings. In legal circles, attorneys debate what the death means for ongoing civil cases. Without a criminal trial, sworn testimony that might have occurred in open court will never happen. For survivors, the realization lands heavily. No cross-examination. No witness stand. No verdict. Only files. Lots of files. Boxes of them sit in evidence rooms, court archives, and law office storage. Depositions. Contact lists. Travel records. Photographs. Transcripts. Thousands of pages that still exist even though the central defendant does not. Journalists begin filing records requests the very next morning. Editors assign investigative teams. Producers schedule primetime specials. Documentary filmmakers call sources they interviewed years earlier. Podcast hosts outline emergency episodes. The story doesn't end. It expands, because attention shifts from one man to everyone connected to him. In a quiet records facility, a clerk wheels out a cart stacked with sealed binders. Each binder carries a label referencing a civil case number. A legal order authorizing partial unsealing sits clipped to the top folder. The clerk parks the cart beside a long table. Attorneys enter. Gloves on. Pens ready. Notebooks open. One binder opens with a soft crack. Inside are pages the public has never seen. Ink. Signatures. Dates. Names. A lawyer exhales slowly. Here we go. Camera pulls back as more binders open across the table, page after page turning in near silence while outside the world wait. A fluorescent light flickers above a long archive table as another binder is opened. The paper inside is yellowed at the edges, some pages stamped with dates from years earlier. A legal assistant slides a document forward. The top line reads, "Deposition transcript." Chairs scrape softly as attorneys sit. Pens hover. One begins reading aloud. The testimony describes private flights, unfamiliar names, locations that appear repeatedly across different statements. Not accusations proven in court. Not verdicts. Just sworn words spoken under oath years before most of the public even knew the case existed. Another binder opens. This one contains a photocopied address book. Columns of handwritten contacts fill each page. Phone numbers. Initials. Short notes scribbled beside certain names. Investigators photograph every sheet before anyone turns another page. Outside the records room, reporters wait in a hallway lined with marble walls. Some stare at laptops. Others rehearse lines quietly before going live. A producer checks her phone, refreshing the court docket again and again. A notification appears. Additional documents unsealed. The hallway suddenly comes alive. Journalists rush toward the clerk's window as staff distribute newly released files. Printers whir. Paper stacks grow. Within minutes, correspondents begin scanning paragraphs, highlighting phrases, texting editors. Across the country, newsroom televisions switch feeds simultaneously. Breaking coverage begins again. A legal analyst points at highlighted lines on a monitor, explaining that many names appearing in documents are witnesses, contacts, or individuals mentioned by others, not necessarily suspects or defendants. He stresses that legal context matters. The distinction scrolls across the bottom of the screen, but online discussions move faster than clarifications. In a studio in Washington, former prosecutors debate the implications. One explains that sealed records often contain unverified claims because civil litigation allows broader testimony than criminal trials. Another counters that public scrutiny can expose patterns investigators might miss. The discussion grows tense. Meanwhile, in a quiet office lined with legal volumes, Brad Edwards studies copies of the same files. He has represented multiple accusers connected to the case. As he turns pages, sticky notes mark sections he considers important. Names, dates, cross-references. He circles a paragraph, then another. His phone rings constantly. Media requests. Client calls. Colleagues asking what he's found so far. He answers briefly, gives no speculation, and returns to reading. Across the Atlantic Ocean, international broadcasters run special segments analyzing the growing document releases. Panels discuss how elite social circles operate, how influence works, and how legal systems sometimes struggle when wealth, power, and crime intersect. In New York, a public relations executive gathers her crisis team around a glass table. Printed statements lie in neat stacks. Each statement belongs to a high-profile individual whose name has surfaced somewhere within the documents. Some statements are short and firm. Others are long and defensive. All deny wrongdoing. She instructs staff to release them immediately. Within minutes, statements begin appearing online. News anchors read excerpts on air. Commentators dissect wording. Viewers debate tone. The cycle feeds itself. Late evening. A law professor appears on a televised panel holding a thick folder. He explains that raw document dumps can be misleading without legal training. He flips to a page and demonstrates how a single name might appear only because someone mentioned it in passing testimony. He closes the folder. That's why context is everything, he says. In a small apartment, a survivor watches that interview will. Noise, speculation, opinion, argument, and buried inside all of it. Facts. Back in the records room, investigators compare newly released pages with older evidence already in their possession. One document lists a date, another lists a flight, a third lists a meeting. Individually, they mean little. Together, they suggest timelines. A pencil taps the table rhythmically. One investigator draws a line across a legal pad, connecting 3 names. Another investigator studies the line silently. Outside, thunder rolls faintly over the city. The clerk returns pushing yet another cart stacked with binders. No one speaks this time. They simply reach forward and open them, because they all understand the same thing at once. The deeper they dig, the bigger this story becomes. And they're nowhere near the bottom yet.